Hi everyone, welcome to the Advanced Home Upgrade Q&A for the new incentive structure. I'm Arjun Alsalucin, Senior Associate for PG&E Programs. With me I have Sarah Zach, Manager of Contractor Services, and Torsten Glidden, Senior Manager of Policy and Technical Innovation. Also on the line we have Sandy Fischler, Senior Manager of Home Upgrade. And so before we get started, we're going to go over some of the logistics for this program. On your GoToMeeting app, you have the ability to expand and collapse your side panel, enter full screen mode, and raise and lower your hand with the hand icon. Attendees, for this Q&A session, attendees can submit questions through that question panel. So go ahead and type your questions in, click submit, and you'll be entered into a queue. As we come across your question, you'll be unmuted so you can discuss and give us further clarification on your questions. And if time does run out and we aren't able to get to your questions, a PDF with all the questions and answers will be sent out on February 15th. And so if you are having issues with your audio, if you're using audio through your computer, go ahead and call in through a phone. You'll get better audio that way. And if you're still having issues, go ahead and call our training line. All right, and finally, this presentation is being recorded, so a PDF and a video of this session will be available by February 15th through the Home Upgrade website.
Okay, hi everyone, this is Sarah Zach, Manager of Contractor Services. So I will be walking us through this sort of Q&A session. More towards the end, we'll have time for Q&A, but our agenda today is we're going to review the main points of change for the new AHUP measure structure, and then we'll discuss the measure structure in three parts. First, we'll look at the shell measures, then we'll look at the HVAC measures, and then sort of the other measures in the rebate structure. So 4 measures are required, and 2 of which are the shell measures and 1 HVAC for a maximum of $5,500 per home for climate zones 1, 4, 11, 12, 13, and 16, and $3,500 for climate zones in 2, 3, and 5. And so in the rebate structure, we'll see a breakdown of those climate zones per measure and the rebates attached. So main points to note here of change. So the incentives differ, and they're based on CEC climate zones, and so they're set amounts, and they're relative to the average post-install metered savings in that climate zone. And then all measures, so they do have a distinct incentive amount, so they're set. Modeling is no longer required for the advanced home upgrade pathway. Instead of a pre-install in the application, it will be replaced with a funds reservation. So depending on which measures you select within the portal, it will show you a tally of funds reserved. And then finally, the HPHI, Ultimate Comfort High Performance HVAC Install, it has 2 incentives. An incentive directly to the contractor, which is $1,200, and an incentive that goes to the customer, either $500 or $1,000, depending on the climate zone. And CAS testing is still required for the pre and post install for all projects. So just to review the eligibility regarding fuel type. So it's the same as previous years. So fuel switching is not eligible. If you have a PG&E all electric home, only the electric measures are eligible to claim. Same for PG&E and gas only. Only gas measures would be eligible to claim. For PG&E electric and SoCal gas, both of those still qualify for incentives. So just when in doubt, look at your customer's utility bill, and PG&E fuel type measures are claimable. Okay, so going into the snapshot of the shell measures, again, 2 are required for the project to be eligible. So we have wall insulation for 2x4 framing, minimum of 13 R value, and 2x6 framing, minimum of 19, and CEC Q2 standards apply. QII, excuse me. So for attic insulation, R44 or better, QII, and existing insulation maximum R19, and then climate zones 2, 3, and 5, and then existing insulation maximum R30, climate zones 1, 4, and 11, 12, 13, and 16. So 100% of accessible attic area is required with a minimum of 50% total attic area. All right, and so floor insulation is a claimable measure, minimum of R19, installed full joist thickness, CEC QII standards apply, 100% of accessible floor area, minimum 50% total floor area, and of course, you know, extenuating circumstances always have to be, you know, submit pictures, take as many pictures as you can. If there's a question on the total amount of area that is accessible. Then the last shell measure, whole building envelope, air sealing and ventilation. So 15% building leakage reduction or must reach 30% building leakage reduction. With the 800 square foot conditioned area is the requirement there, minimum. All right, so now we're in the HVAC section. So new ducts and insulation can be claimed, R8 for all climate zones, 5% leakage or less. Existing ducts must be 10% leakage or greater to be eligible. HVAC cooling, split systems must be at least 15 SEER or 12.5 EAR. And package units 15 SEER and 12 EAR or better. And then for heating, sealed gas furnace, 92% AFUE or better, heat pump, 9 HSPF or better. So for those 2 measures, you can claim up to 2 HVAC systems per dwelling unit. And then the last measure on the HVAC list, so HVAC Ultimate Comfort or HPHI, I'm sorry, High Performance HVAC Install, must meet at least or the minimum 7 residential HVAC system commissioning specifications. So have to meet those 7 in order to claim that measure. And you must be an approved contractor to install that measure. You must go through the training, and we'll go into detail on that in the next slide. And 1 system per dwelling unit can be claimed only, so it does not apply for two systems there. All right, so previously stated, you must be an approved HPHI contractor in order to offer that to your customers.
Just a point of clarification is the reason it's called the measure that it's called HVAC Ultimate Comfort is because that is a customer-facing incentive, and that was the term that was chosen to sort of market that measure to customers. But just know that the requirement is the same. It is effectively high-performance HVAC install. That's more of a contractor-facing communication, and that has with it its own separate incentive directly to contractors for that same measure, effectively per project. So there's an incentive amount for the customer for them choosing that measure and going through that. There's a little extra time and measurement in the house, right? And then there's the separate HPHI measure for contractors. The incentive of contractors is $1,200 per project that goes directly to contractors.
So if you have questions on that, you can go to the homeupgrade.org website within your Grow Your Business tab. We have been reaching out to you all to see, if you have more questions on this, set up an informational call to explore, the training options and solidify a training price. So we definitely encourage everyone to follow up with your account representative to set that up if you haven't yet. Okay, so now we have additional measures that you could claim, or sort of other measures, for lack of a better term. So gas storage water heater, 0.7 UEF or better. Condensing gas storage water heater, 0.9 UEF. Electric storage water heater, 2 UEF or better. So pool pump can be claimed. It still needs to be installed by a certified aquatic equipment installer, but that can be claimed. And a smart thermostat is a pretty new type of measure introduced to this incentive structure. So it does have to be Energy Star certified smart thermostats, and it must be Wi-Fi enabled. And we do, at the desktop for quality assurance review, we will have to review that it is Wi-Fi enabled. And then lighting can be claimed, $5 per bin-based recessed LED retrofit fixture. Has to be Title 24 compliant. And then at the bottom you'll see the total maximum incentives that can be claimed depending on the customer's climate zone.
All right, so we're going to open it up for Q&A. It looks like we already have some questions from Mark Bond. So Mark, give us 1 second. We're going to go ahead and unmute you. All right, Mark, you have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was curious, why is it that the fuel switching still is being a requirement that you can't fuel switch from, say, a gas furnace to a high efficiency heat pump, which would be very beneficial to meeting the high performance HVAC statistics that you're looking to reach?
We're with you 100% on the benefits. Problem is that it's still a statewide IOU, investor-owned utility using ratepayer funds for programs requirement that fuel switching is not incentivized. So until that changes, our hands are tied on that. There is, a formal protest going through CPUC, determination processes. So where they issue, rulings. Forgetting it's an administrative law judge is considering this. So hopefully we'll get an answer on that sometime this year. That's what we've been told, is that sometime in the spring or summer there should be a decision on that. But currently it is still a requirement that fuel switching cannot be incentivized. So, if and when that changes, we will certainly revisit all the issues surrounding that with regard to claiming incentives for installations in these programs.
Okay. And
Mark, I can fill in a little more detail there for you. The that rule up at the CPUC level is put in place because of Southern California Edison and SoCal Gas. PG&E and San Diego Gas and Electric would be more than happy to let you fuel switch all day long because they serve both sides of the fuel mix. Because Edison only serves the electric side and SoCal Gas serves only the gas side, the concern was that they would poach from each other's customer bases with a fuel switching incentive. And that rule is in place for those two IOUs. PG&E would be thrilled to let you fuel switch. So we're hoping for some movement within the next year.
great. And so while I have the floor, another question, I asked one other question about HVAC, if the ducts would be a measure, it's pretty obvious that's probably the case after listening to all the explanations that ducts would count as a measure in the HVAC category for the new menu descriptions here. Is that correct?
I'm not quite clear on the question, Mark. Can you repeat that again?
Just replacing ducts would count as one HVAC measure in the 4-measure minimum.
Yes, right.
Mm-hmm.
The
So
installation.
Perfect.
The installation and duct go together in this case because it's replacement, right? They're not
Yeah,
separate.
correct. I'm just saying that if you were putting together a menu item for a customer, you could do 2 shell measures, and 1 HVAC measure, and then an additional measure, and that would be 4 measures. And then one of those measures for HVAC could just be the ducts if they had a brand new system already.
Right. So new duct and new piece of HVAC equipment, and you can count the cooling and the heating side separately, and building and shell.
Perfect. And then finally, just in regards to modeling, I've already talked to Steve Weimer about this, and I believe he's told me it won't be used anymore. So Snug and Optimizer are going away and will no longer be used. Is that correct?
They're not going away. Just they're not required to be used. So if you still want to model for your own internal estimates and or a way to communicate to customers through a report or something like that, you may still use SnugPro or Optimizer to do that at your own discretion.
We use it for all kinds of different projects not related to PG&E territory. So it's definitely a great tool, but as far as submitting projects, you will not be tracking any savings as far as modeling goes. It'll be just real time based on data share from the client. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Or
technically. We're not, you won't be required to, the incentives won't be generated by the model savings.
Okay. And is there also some other, so I saw some portal revisions already made with the scope of work value and the EEM values been split off into 2 separate lines, so you can separate out the non-EEM costs. And that in itself has some gray areas, which I would suspect you're going to, in the portal, you're going to have some, if that's going to maintain like that in the portal as we move forward, I would imagine you'll get some misreporting on that. So I still don't understand exactly how you expect us to peel off items that are related to insulation and such. I've been having conversations with the desktop reviewers already and current projects where they're wanting me to remove things like baffles and damming and wires and all kinds. We do flat rate pricing, so it's very difficult to pull out the costs on certain measures and break it down to just the EEMs. And so I'd imagine if you're going to go forward with that with other contractors, you're going to get misreporting because they're not going to want to take all the time to try and break it down. So I still don't understand where it's going.
Ultimately, we do have to rely on each contractor's best judgment as to what sort of should be, apportioned toward the EM cost versus total cost. That you guys know your project best, and
Well, I guess my point is it's going to. Are there going to
like circuit runs or something like that isn't what we're asking, but getting some sort of proportional percentage determination, distinction on what is EM related and what's the rest, some other part of the project,
Well, I have had questions from the desktop reviewers that have gotten pretty specific. They're reading our scope of work, and if there's certain things written down there they're keying in on those things and don't realize that they're associated with flat rate pricing, and they're asking me to
Sure.
remove it. And so
We could have a, we could have a separate meeting with your contractor engagement rep and, take a look at so your general, your typical scope of work structure and find a way that works for you guys best. So you
that'd be great.
A new issue every time you, go through desktop review.
Yeah, we have a meeting scheduled next Friday, so we'll take care of it at that point. So I think that rounds out all my questions, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. Thank
Mark,
you.
one of the things we know that that number is going to be very loose because nobody calculates that down to the penny. We're not expecting that. What we're aiming to do is take off a 10 to 15% top of our installed costs. That is the single biggest component of our total resource cost. And if we can bring down that cost to something that's realistic, then our numbers look better, and PG&E and the CPUC are likely to continue to fund this program. So that's really where we're trying to get to, is to pare down that top level big number for us so that we can continue keeping the program funded.
That's great to know, actually. Thank you for explaining that, because if we understand exactly what it is that the benefits are and why that we're supposed to be doing it, it makes it, and we start doing it up front and have that in mind, and we break it down like broken down on the portal, it'll be much easier and you'll get more accurate numbers. So
yeah, we're not expecting you to calculate it down to the penny, because that's entirely unrealistic, and we know that. We're just trying to cut out the stuff that we know is not directly involved with the installation of the measure. And then I'll use a perfect example, is that we processed an application a couple of months ago that had $36,000 worth of plantation shutters on it. And that's exactly, that shouldn't have been there in the first place, but that's the kind of thing that drives our TRC cost way up.
Okay, I can understand that. Plantation shutters. That's
Yeah, well, I mean, you could consider those an energy efficiency measure. They do help reduce heat gain and heat loss through the windows. However, they're not an incentivized measure in this program.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a stretch. I mean, I can very easily understand pulling out lump sum values like for a whole house fan that cannot be calculated as a something like that, or if we sell, we frequently sell things to clients along with the project that have nothing to do with energy efficiency. They might, it could be drywall repair or something like that. So some things are very easy to pull out, but other things are all connected like a spider web.
Yeah.
So it's hard to go.
You use your best judgment there.
Yeah.
Knowing what we're trying to do is get down to the actual installed measure, adjust the costs as close as you can to what that went to the customer.
Perfect.
All right. So
Come on, you have to have more questions.
At the moment, we don't have any questions in the queue. Let's give it another minute.
Okay.
If no other questions come in, we can probably in a couple minutes.
Okay. And if we do get more questions, we have our contractor engagement team, and we would be more than thrilled to answer those questions.
Yep, so I don't think we're going to get any more questions at this point. So I just want to thank everyone for their time. Again, go ahead and email those additional questions to our contractor engagement team. And a recording of this will be out on February 15th, and you can see what other people are asking. The other webinars will also be available. So I want to thank everyone for their time, and have a good day.